Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
Up, everybody. Welcome to your Tuesday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show. I am your co-host, Rusty Buckets, as always. Checking in with my guy, Drew Gann, Uncle Buck. Drew, what is happening in Northeast Mississippi as I shut the door to the office and step away for a second?
Everything in North Mississippi is just it's pretty bad. I'm going to get to it in a minute, but there's one thing that Southerners love more than anything, and it's currently being taken away from us. I'll speak on it in a minute. Ooh. How are things in Western Tennessee?
You know, I'm angry. I'm very angry, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. I got some thoughts. I promised on Twitter this was going to be a spicy episode, and I think it might be. The sky is not falling, but there are things that need to be addressed. But all that basketball talk is coming in just a few minutes. In the meantime, you know we've got to talk about what everybody is here for.
What is up? It is Tuesday, which means it's everybody's biggest waste of time ever, as a YouTube commenter once told us. It's our best of beef segment of the week. This segment is where me and Rusty just catch up after a long weekend. It's been 5 days since our last show, and so we're just going to catch up. We're going to tell each other the best thing that happened to ourselves since Thursday and the worst thing that's happened to us since Thursday. We call it our best in beef segment. Rusty, I set them up. You knock them down. What's the best thing that happened to you this weekend?
For me, it was my first ever back-to-back. Your boy was tired on Sunday. My tail was dragging because Friday night, Maggie and I went to the Pelicans game in the FedEx Forum, and it was just sleepy. Like, the whole atmosphere was sleepy. The game was sleepy. The Grizzlies somehow pulled away late to get the professional win, but it did not look good early leading into halftime. But it was a great time with Maggie. It was always fun. You know, it was a Sounds night, so we wore our Sounds gear. I got an awesome new hat, which I'm sitting right here. I love this Memphis hat. It's incredible. But it was a great time. And then Saturday, I went with my nephews to the Jazz game and got to watch Edey be the enforcer. Drew Eubanks thought he wanted a piece of Zach Edey, but as Gary Parrish said on his show, it turns out that Drew Eubanks had that hoe in him, and he thought he wanted a piece of Zach Edey, but he backed up quickly away from that.
Do you know why Drew Eubanks is what he is? Do you know why he is the scoundrel and low-life human that he is?
I got a feeling it's because he's from Starkville, Mississippi.
He was born in Starkville, Mississippi.
Anyway, it was a great game, great time.
He lived there for 2 years before moving to the Pacific Northwest, but it gets in your blood quick there.
Nah. Anyway, it was a great time with my nephews on Saturday. Got to watch a great win. Shout out to Carl Rosen, my season ticket guy, got us shoot around access before the game. So my nephews were enthralled being 5 feet away from Jaren Jackson Jr., warming up, taking corner threes. It was awesome. It was a great experience. The boys had a great time. It was a wonderful weekend full of Grizzlies basketball and downtime on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I know Rusty looks old, and he is, but he's still got that youth in him. You know how I know this is because Saturday – he calls me at like 6:15 and says, "Hey, man, you got to get on the pregame show on FanDuel Sports Network and record me because I'm going to be on TV." It's like, okay.
Again, it was more for my nephews because we get cornered by a cameraman, and he was like, "Hey, you boys are all dressed in Grizzlies gear. Looks like your dad is." And I was like, "Uncle," but that's fine. And he was like, "We need an intro, and you boys are it." And BK, Brett Knight came over and signed their basketballs, and they just had again, it was just a really great time for my nephew's Christmas present. Couldn't have been a better weekend for basketball.
Rusty is the most selfish gift giver ever. He will not give you a gift that he cannot also benefit from.
I see. What's wrong with giving Grizzly tickets? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Not a thing. Not a thing. That was my Christmas gift from Rusty too. So, all right. My best of the week is not really about me, but it's just kind of like being a parent. I think is like I've said on this show, and I talked about it on Thursday. Like we gave our kids experiences for Christmas this year, and so my daughter and my wife went to Huntsville, Alabama, to a concert to see the band Kane. And so just getting videos and pictures of that, like, listen, That girl was on cloud nine, and she had almost as much fun as my wife did. So just getting pictures of that is like, you like to see, like, the best part of giving a gift is not making other people happy, but it's you getting to feel like you did something good. It's all selfish, like Rusty is. Like, it's all selfish. I got so much pleasure out of watching her have fun. And so that's basically the only reason why I do nice things for other people, because it makes me feel good.
That's fair. That is a very fair thing.
Rusty, worst thing that happened to you this week. Go.
So, so this morning I was at the gym. I go to the gym most mornings before work, get my day started. And I'm over there. I'm slugging through my workout. Now, I am built like a water buffalo. Same physique, just lumbering, just a large human. Mm-hmm. And I make weird faces. You know, I'm older. I make, there might be some fluctuations. There is pictures of my weird faces. Things happen, right? Well, I'm doing some box step ups and doing some work, and I just turn around to catch my breath, and I counted 8 tripods with phones on it filming content. And it's just like, I'm in the background of all these videos looking like a fat mess, and I'm on somebody's internet, YouTube, Instagram, something as they're building content. And I'm like, you know what? If there was ever a moment where I'm like, my fat butt needs a home gym, it is right now, because I am probably in the background and on some like gym fail videos. Like, watch me do this, but look at this fat guy in the background trying to get up and off that box. And so,
yeah,
if you go to the gym, just go to the gym, man. It's not time to film content. Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, I hate that. I hate it. I do hate. I hate people videoing everything, and I feel like I'm on the tail end on the leading edge of like the Gen Z, or not Gen Z, the millennials, and so it's like I'm not as immersed with video. I don't want to video anything. If I'm in something, I want it to be in it.
Right.
And so, like, going back to the concert that my wife and daughter went to on Friday night, like, I told my wife, it's like, don't video the whole thing. Like, don't live through the video camera, and don't feel like I got to see everything. I do want some short ones, but just be there. And so we are very meticulous about being where we're at and not saving it for posterity's sake. Mm-hmm. And then to take that to the worst, most exponential degree are the people that video themselves working out. Like, nobody wants to see this.
And that's it, man. Like, nobody cares about your content. And like,
it is just all thirst traps. It's not nobody films themselves because people want to see them work out. It is only thirst traps. It's the worst.
It. 100%. And I'm in the background over there. I'm in the background looking like a water buffalo trying to get up out of the creek. And I'm just like,
yeah. I will add one caveat. Whoever gets Rusty in the background of their thirst trap workout videos, I will subscribe. I'll pay whatever amount of money.
And don't get me wrong, I see the irony as I'm sitting here on camera talking about sports, but at least I'm willingly on this camera, and I'm not just I'm not like lumbering around the gym. That's for sure. So, what about you? What's your beef?
I've got lots of beef this week. It's listen. First off, I just put 2 new tires on my wife's vehicle. That cost me $500. And I don't know how many of you are wives or teachers or husbands of teachers or whatever. You got teachers in the family. My wife has not been paid since 2024. And because they get paid like the last day of school. And so here we are, January the 28th. And I'm like, I see my wife's tires, like, no, I can't even wait till the 1st. Like, we're eating ramen till Friday, like, it's just bad. But my real beef, what I hinted to earlier, and this is not a political podcast. This is not a political take. We make jokes on everything.
Yes.
And I don't even want to get political. However, yesterday I get a text message from my wife while she's at school saying, I heard they raided the Mexican restaurant. ICE raided the Mexican restaurant. And I was like, okay, I'm on it. I'm going to go snoop. I frequent this place. I know the owner. I pull up at the drive-thru just because I know the owner's going to be there. I'm like, hey, man, what happened? Sure enough, unmarked vehicles, ICE agents come in there in 2 of our 3 Mexican restaurants in the small town that I live in. The only thing that's not fast food, and swipe up servers. And I'm just like, okay, illegal immigration. I know it was a hot button issue with this thing. I was kind of under the impression that we weren't starting with the servers at the small town Mexican restaurant in Ripley. Like, I have no other options. What am I going to do? Eat McDonald's now? The best thing we've got that's not Mexican is a Bumpers, a Jack's family restaurant. Like, why are we starting here? I thought, let's go get criminals. If you want to deport anybody, go get the bad guys, not the people that bring me Mexican food. This is the lifeblood. This is the lifeblood of small town Mississippi is the Mexican restaurant. How are we? Like, there's criminals all over the place. That's all they talk about on the news. I thought, let's go to those big cities and get the criminals. If you're wanting to go deport them people, not my servers. Yeah. I called my dad. I was like, Dad, you made a mistake. like, do you realize that
it was strategery that they did it Sunday afternoon and not Sunday morning? Because if that had happened after church, the South would have revolted.
Oh my goodness, sure. The church population would have went so blue if they walked out the servers during a church crowd on
church
Sunday.
Rush. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, thankfully, we've got other things to talk about today besides the best in beef of the week. Memphis Grizzlies have been playing something resembling basketball, but Drew, I have a question for you before we get started on this. What do you call a bear with no teeth?
I've seen the show title.
Mm-hmm. What do you call
Gummy
it?
Bear.
Yeah, Gummy Bear. Grizzlies who played like gummy bears last night against the New York Knicks. As I referenced earlier, we talked about the weekend. We had a great winning weekend. We had a great 6-game win streak, beating up on hapless teams. But last night we faced a real team in Madison Square Garden, and we, as the saying goes, we effed around and we found out last night that the New York Knicks were one of the hottest teams in basketball. Knicks came in on a tear, and we were the victim. You know, we talked about it a little bit in the green room, but it started off pretty well. I'll kind of give a quick recap, Drew, and then I'll turn the floor over to you. First quarter, we started kind of sluggish, but we battled, and we took a 13-point deficit and turned it into like a 5-point deficit at the end of the first quarter. Like, we hustled to get back in that game. The second quarter, things started going awry. You could see that the wheels were wobbling. The windshield wipers weren't working. The doors started rattling a little bit. By the time we got midway through the third quarter, the bus had completely fallen apart, only to skid to a stop in the middle of a sewer plant in the fourth quarter as we got hammered last night by 37 points. Ja Morant finished the night as a net negative 41, and I went to bed upset last night.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I tried to warn all you guys on Twitter. If you don't follow me, you should follow me, because I warned everybody when the bench kind of clawed back into this game. I was like, listen, if the starters don't figure this out, then this is going to get ugly, because if there's one thing that Tom Thibodeau doesn't do, it's play his bench very much. And just the wheels, they quit. I mean, listen, we're all grown-ups here. We can call a spade a spade. You quit. You lost the first half by 10. You lost the second half by 27. Okay? Like, you just rolled over. And you did that in Madison Square Garden. I tweeted out last night, I was like, the Grizzlies can take sole possession of second place with a win and a Houston loss at Boston. And if you needed any more reason to be up, aside from just getting to play in Madison Square Garden. And listen, they showed up flat, and then they quit. They showed up unserious, and then they threw in the towel quickly. It was disgusting.
It was another one of those games where you knew the outcome by the early second quarter. The body language was poor. Everybody was checked out. We ended the night with more turnovers than we did assists. We had 26 turnovers to 21 assists, leading to an astronomical number of points off of turnovers, 36 points off of turnovers. They also had 31 fast break points. There was about an 8-minute stretch where I'm not sure Mikal Bridges even came down the court, and we did nothing about it. I felt like he had like 4 cherry-picking dunks in a row, and we were just spectating at that point.
Oh, well, it wasn't even as much that. It was like they quit early, and you turn the ball over, and they're frustrated. It just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, the first drive of the game, I've been saying, like, listen, I want Ja to take over, be the alpha, be the guy that drives this bus. I know inside the NBA back a couple years ago had the whole bus bit that they used to do, like who's driving the bus, who's a passenger. Ja Morant, I wanted him to drive this bus. And first play of the game, he gets downhill on a straight line drive, and instead of playing through contact, trying to make the basket, he tried to get the foul call, didn't get it, stood on the baseline, arms out like touchdown Jesus, or the dude in Rio, whatever the guy in Brazil is. And he just camped out there for 3 seconds, just like defeated. And at that point, I think in the first couple minutes, it was like 7-2. And Desmond got a drive, and then Desmond got a foul call, hit a couple free throws. But like, Ja from that point forward, just like MIA. And
that's the difference in this year's Ja. We'll get to Ja here in a minute. That's the difference in this year's Ja. Like 3-4 years ago when that happened, he would bow his neck, drive harder, and play harder. This year, he has stood on the baseline and complained and flailed and threw his arms and stomped, and we've had to play 4-on-5 as he's trying to petition for a foul. Look, we all know that it's a real thing. Ja does not get the calls that he deserves for the fouls that he takes, the contact that he takes. We're not sitting here arguing that fact, because it is true that Ja is not getting the foul calls he deserves. But that is now impacting the rest of the game. And when Ja doesn't get those calls early, he checks out. We'll get to Ja in a minute. But let's start at the top, Drew. We've got some thoughts on Taylor Jenkins. Taylor Jenkins has been a hot button for all Grizzly fans. And I don't know that last night did a lot to help. He didn't turn the ball over 26 times. He didn't shoot 37% from three, going 9 of 24. He didn't play poorly last night, but I have some thoughts. So I'll let you go first. I'll concede the floor. What is your thoughts on Taylor Jenkins based on what we saw last night?
Yeah, the game is bad when I lay in bed and I just like write notes. I was like, I need to remember this. I'm going to write this down. I've got a show tomorrow. Typically I just go to bed. It's like, But here's the thing. Like, I know in this form, when I do a show with you, I am painted the Taylor Jenkins apologist, but that's because, comparatively speaking, between me and you, I wouldn't call myself an apologist because I've criticized him multiple times, and over things that I feel like is his fault. He is over rotating. There's got way too many players rotating into the game, way too frequently. But last night, there was 11 guys that got real minutes. Like Scottie Pippen and above was like 10 guys got, I think, 15 minutes or something like that. And sometimes the players suck. Last night, the players came out absolutely flat. Like, there is no doubt about it. They did not show up for the moment. And that, to me, starts with Ja, but it's a locker room thing. And so what's the root causes? Why is Ja checked out? Why is Ja deferring so much? Is it because that Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a superstar year and he's just willing to, he's wanting to, let him take over? What's going on? What's the psychology behind this? And for me, it comes down to this offense. I feel like we've seen this offense now with non-starters or with starters that are injured. Ja and Desmond's missed a lot of time, and we've seen this offense with those guys. And now I feel like we've got 20-something games with Ja in this lineup with this offense, and it just doesn't do him any favors. And as big of an ego as Ja's got, he's got an ego, but he's also kind of fragile. And whereas when I was raised, if you whined and cried, they told you to go away and figure it out. Ja is not featured in this offense. And you're asking your superstar player, the guy who's best when he's on ball, to go stand in the corner, to be a cog in the machine instead of being the guy. And so I feel like at this point, it is Taylor's job to figure out Ja and to get Ja right. Now, I know a lot of that's between the ears with Ja, and Ja's got to want to be better. But Taylor's got to – I'm preface all this to say, I'm ready to scrap the offense. The communist offense, whereas you've seen a historic year from guys like Jake LaRavia and Santi Aldama, and Brandon Clark's looked really good, and Scottie Pippen at times, and you've got all Jalen Wells. They all look good in this offense. If it does not help Ja and Desmond Bane, then it needs to be scrapped. And it needs to be scrapped going forward. Okay, maybe not scrapped, but at least scrapped while Ja's on the court. If you get in a bind and you need something fresh, go to it. You've run it enough now that the guys are familiar with it. Go to it when you need it. But if Ja's not involved, you think back when Zach Randolph played. It was like they made it a point early to get Zach Randolph in the game because they knew that he had to get going for this team to achieve whatever goals that they have. Ja has got to get going. We've seen Jaren is having an amazing year. He's having the best season of his life. He's going to get paid a ton of money. He's going to make an all-NBA team. It doesn't matter because the people follow Ja's lead, and he is unhappy. And we talked about happy Ja. We have not seen happy Ja since the season started.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's a lot of points here that kind of go along with what I was going to say. Like what we saw last night was two conflicting styles. You've got Taylor Jenkins, who played 13 players through the first 15 minutes, and Tom Thibodeau played 6. And so there's some conflicting styles there. I don't think Tibbs is the answer because no Tibbs team has made an NBA Finals because of injuries, because of running out of gas, because he plays guys for 45 to 48 minutes a night. That's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm also over this, I'm done supporting a coach that looks at a game that's getting out of hand and says to himself, you know what this game needs? Jake LaRavia. And it's like, why are we continuing to run out role players when the other team is not? Like, I understand we have to go to our bench. You talked about the offense. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of movement. I understand guys get tired, but I don't think that Jaren is tired 4 minutes into a game. Desmond, it can play entire first quarter, yeah, but Ja and Jaren come out really early in a game, and I don't know that that's a great way to get momentum established. Last night was different. Ja was pouting in the first quarter. He was not himself, so pulling him was probably a good idea to try and get it to reset. But I've just got questions that continue to come up. Taylor Jenkins is a great developmental coach. My confidence in him being able to scrap this offense or put it on a back burner is shaky at best because – for me, Drew, this kind of bleeds into Ja, which we'll get to more here in a minute. Nobody is growing a pair and taking leadership. We are a ship without a captain right now. Taylor makes great pregame adjustments. He's made some halftime adjustments, but those 48 minutes of basketball, he doesn't make great adjustments in those. We continue to run this offense when it's not working. We continue to go away from our superstar. We continue to try and isolate Scottie Pippen Jr. and let him take shots. Like, it blows my mind how I can be sitting on my couch and see this, and we're not making adjustments in the game. So, players suck last night. Players have to show up. They can't show up with that bad attitude. But what is happening before? Is that bad attitude, bad body language, and posturing in a game a product of Taylor losing the locker room? Because I guarantee you that Ja Morant is frustrated with his lack of performance in this offense. Desmond Bane, these guys are huge ego players. Ja is a very emotional player, and that bodes well when he's hitting the gritty, he's dancing, he's calling 12, he's doing those things. But we're seeing the other end of the spectrum right now where that negative emotion creates a huge, huge vacuum, and it brings the whole team down. The last thing I'll say, Ja is our best player. Taylor needs to figure out how to feature Ja, how to get that pick and roll back. Because when Ja was a pick and roll demon with Steven Adams, we were getting alpha Ja. We were getting 40 points, 35 points. And it's fun to watch his maturity come, and he's getting 10, 12, 14 assists. But Ja Morant is a scorer, man. And we need to figure out from the top how to make it happen more consistently on a night in and night out basis, or you're going to lose this team.
Yeah, it's one of my things, a couple of things that just to touch on. Listen, I'm okay with criticizing LaRavia minutes, but last night he got 1 minute in the first, 1 minute in the second, 1 minute in the third, and 7 after the game was over in the fourth. It's frustrating seeing him go into the game, and if you just that's fine. If you just hate Jake LaRavia, he didn't influence the game one way or the other yesterday.
Just cardio Jake.
Can he install a new offense? I honestly think that the easiest thing that can be done right now is to scrap it and go to a more traditional offense. We've done this. Again, I'm not worried about, name your role player picking up a traditional NBA offense. This is a mostly veteran team. Jalen Wells, I get it. You can figure this out. This is basketball you've played before. This is not traditional basketball. Is not pick and roll basketball is not anything that would be new to anybody. And so I do think that it's the easiest way to inject some life into John Morant. So,
Agreed.
The thing with Taylor too is that I don't know what the option is. I agree with you that in game he struggles. I think that he's become a scapegoat more times than I am willing to make him the scapegoat. But I do agree with you that he does not adapt well. And I think it's because I saw this tweet, and shout out to Anthony saying he retweeted this with a comment, but he said the offense feels like they're trying to use a hammer to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's like, yes, you will get it in there, but you shouldn't have to beat this hard. Just make it, you put a square hole there for the square peg. And so I get that, but it feels like they're very invested in this. And he fired his whole staff. He replaced his whole staff and brought in Tomas, and he brought in all these guys. I think the only one he kept was Ahern and
Carter. Anthony Carter.
AC. Yeah. And so my thing with Taylor is Zach Kleiman is going to run it through the season with him, as you should, because what are you going to do? Turn the reins over to the author of the communist offense book,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just more of the same. And so he's got to adapt, and I feel like it makes it a little bit easier just to be like, all right, listen, guys, Zach Edey, you're going to set screens. If Zach Edey's not on the court, Jaren, like, match up who's setting the screen, let Ja go off, and Desmond Bane is still over there on the wings. Like, I don't think it's that hard to revert.
Yeah, agree. Thanks for being in the comments. Dashville Tube, I see you, buddy. Yeah, Ja needs to figure it out because he is definitely struggling. Gigi has the potential to be a big wing for us, but a couple of thoughts on that. So, like, I was thinking about this last night. Like, yes, we were the first ones to implement this European-style offense that's been around for a long time. Maybe there's a reason other coaches haven't tried to implement it. Maybe it is a great gimmicky offense that works against, the lesser tier of the NBA, but against the top tier, it doesn't work. And the one rebuttal that I keep hearing is, I've seen it 1,000 times. It was in the group chat today. I saw it on Twitter, but Boston. Yeah. That was a great win, but that was December the 7th. And let me tell you what we've done since then. We beat Boston nearly 2 months ago. And since then, we have lost to the Lakers, the Clippers, the Thunders, the Rockets twice, now the Knicks. We have 2 wins over Minnesota and Phoenix, which are, who knows, they're borderline playoff teams. We also lost to the Kings and split with the Warriors. Like, that was a great win. And that's what TJ Purists love to throw up, is that he beat Boston. And that was a phenomenal win. But since then, the good teams that we have played have figured it out. And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but today is Tuesday. On Thursday, Houston is coming to our house to play a game on national TV with the intent to absolutely break our backs. That will be their 4th win over us. That's a tough team that is very physical, like New York was last night. And if we don't do something different before Thursday night, we're going to get smacked around on our home court on national TV.
Yeah, the thing with the European offense, and we've never seen it work, is it's a motion offense. It's a motion that you've seen, that players are always moving, and that is not uncommon. And you have seen multiple championships won with this style of a heavy motion offense. You look at Golden State; they're running Steph Curry off everything. They're running Klay Thompson off everything, but there were lots of screens. I don't feel like there's any screens in this.
No.
And you look at the old San Antonio Spurs, which I know is where Taylor Jenkins this birthed in his mind, because he grew up, cut his teeth under Pop. And so there's not a doubt in my mind that he's trying to make this Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan here in a new version. But, and it's as bad as it feels, like, as a parent, like, and it feels wrong to say it because it's up to Ja. Like, it just is.
I mean, it is.
And if he's not happy in it, like, you hitch your wagon to this. And that's great. I wouldn't trade him for anybody. He's a superstar, and I want him to be happy. And we're not going to win when he's not. So if that's what it takes, and it feels to me like that's the most obvious move you can make, to just be like, okay, Ja, I know you were most successful when Steven Adams was setting you screens. Zach Edey, for some reason, we've not used you like we used Steven Adams. Now we are.
Yeah.
So go out there, be 7'5" and wide, set some screens. We'll hit you. We'll let you pop some. But your role is to set screens and get rebounds.
That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that because we were a 2 seed in the West when that happened. And Ja absolutely looked miserable last night. Dashville Tube, you're absolutely correct. Astronomo, Ja does need a lob threat because that's one of the things he also does really well is he sees the floor really well. But
there's not one on this team. There's
No,
not
there's
a lob threat on this team.
No, not BC is not that anymore. Ja has the keys, right? This is an absolutely great point. And we can kind of transition talking more about Ja, though we have talked about him a fair amount. If he's going to walk, there's no point in even getting in the car. This is Ja Morant's team. In a vacuum, Ja is our best player. He is by far the most talented player on this team. So far this year, our best on-court player has been Jaren Jackson Jr. We have dialed up 13 numerous times in the fourth quarter, and he has answered every time. But if this team is going to make a playoff run, particularly one that goes to the Western Conference Finals or the Finals, as a lot of us kind of had that mentality. Shout out to Wayno. He was one of the ones pumping the brakes this summer. It's through Ja Morant. It's not through Jaren. Jaren's a dog. Absolutely right, player's choice. Thanks for being here. I love Jaren. I am probably Jaren's my favorite player in the NBA. It's not close. And I love Jaren, and he has been awesome this year. But this is Ja Morant's team, man. And like you could see it last night. Ja looked miserable last night, so the rest of the team looked and played miserable. Jaren still got his buckets. He had 21 points last night. But the rest of the team follows our leader. We are a ship without a captain. Taylor Jenkins isn't taking the helm, and last night Ja Morant didn't either, and the rest of the team suffered. And we've seen it a lot this year.
I would state that this team does have a leader, and the leader is in a very poor mindset.
That's probably fair, but haven't seen.
You can lead upwards or you can lead downwards, and right now Ja
That's
Morant
fair.
is the
That's
heart
fair.
and soul. He is the mentality of this team. Ja Morant was not. He got frustrated early, and the whole team got frustrated.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson. We had this discussion, I don't know, a month or so ago on this show, like who is better, Ja or Jaren? And we kind of agreed, like right now, maybe Jaren's the better player. But at that point, and still today, I believe that this team does not win without Ja being its win at the highest level, without Ja being its heart and soul.
Last night was a perfect example of that. You're absolutely right. Like that Knicks game, we lost because Ja Morant was in a bad headspace early. And we've seen it a lot this year, Drew. Like I said earlier, kind of leading up into this, like 3 years ago in that 21-22 season, when Ja wasn't getting calls, Ja bowed his neck and attacked harder, and he got to the rim, and he got those floaters. This year, he's spending entirely too much time complaining, stomping, flailing around. My girlfriend Maggie made a phenomenal point last night. She's kind of newer this year to the Grizzlies fans. She was aware of the Grizz, but not a super fan. Like I've made her watch every game on TV so far this year.
Right.
God bless her. And she was like, y'all talk about Ja being this superstar and this like elite player.
Yeah.
She's like, I haven't really seen it. And she's right. Like if you just started watching the Grizzlies this year, you would think that Ja is just a complainer. And I hate to be that way because but it's true. Like he has not been the Ja of old this year, whether that's, and again, I want to preface, I saw this on Twitter earlier, guys, in the comments, if you're listening, don't be tagging players in these goofy discussions we have. Like these are players or human beings. Ja could absolutely have something going on off the court that we could be unaware of. So recognizing that they're human beings who have feelings, we care about them as humans, but we can also criticize their play on the court without involving them. I'll say that.
Yeah. To me, the thing with Ja is it does scream of unhappiness. And that is to me, it's the root cause of it. And I don't know if you are genuinely this unhappy because you're not getting a whistle and you feel like you can't play your game, then I get it. I hope it's not something off the court. But if it is something off the court, then by all means, like, I understand. I come to work frustrated with things from home. Like, I get it, and I hope that everything is okay. But it's very clear that he does not get a whistle that he deserves. And to me, I tweeted that last night. Like, if you're not getting a whistle, go harder. Like, at some point, make them call a whistle, even if it's an offensive foul, because somebody's going to blow the whistle when I drive. It can be on me or it's going to be on them, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep the foot on the gas. And it just seemed like last night, after every time he drove, he hit the same pose. He hit the touchdown Jesus, and he stood on the baseline. And he wasn't even – the thing that was that kind of perked my ears is he wasn't even barking at refs. He was resigned to the fact that he was never going to get a call. Mm-hmm. And that was what's alarming to me. And maybe – and I hope that is just – something's going to have to give. And we've talked in the past, like Taylor Jenkins needs to get a tech. Somebody needs to do something. Like, I don't know what it is, but John's going to have to figure out a way to get on the referee's good side. As bad as that sounds, like this should be fair and impartial. That's the gig, but they've obviously got a vendetta against him. And as a person, if you're constantly getting shown up like that, like I can understand. So you've got to stop. You've just got to let it be about basketball. You've got to go to the basket every time expecting to make the shot, knowing that you're not going to get the foul call. So go harder.
That's it. And that used to be motivation for Ja, but instead it's turned into a reactivity for Ja. And like he just is missing that killer instinct that we used to see. And again, like Ja has been open about his struggles with mental health, so I hope it's nothing like that. But what we're missing is Ja. When Ja would get pissed off previously, like good luck, because somebody was getting dunked on, he was going for 40. Like angry, motivated, checked in Ja was a terror to the entire NBA. This year, like, yeah, he dunked on Wemby, but what else has he done? Like, there hasn't been a lot from Ja, and we need him to come through. I agree here with Messi here, like, or Measy here. It could, like, he's missing like a hype man. Maybe like Edie can be that goon like Dylan Brooks was. It's that enforcer that has your back. Like, you know, he said, Ja said after the game that Edie asked if Eubanks was bothering him, and Edie went and handled it. But like, this is a great little transition because I don't want to just keep hammering on Ja. We do want to talk about the rest of the team. And this is the point that I was going to make. Wayno, shout out. The problem is the messaging with management. Like, they say they want to win now, but we continued. We drafted 2 rookies. We start 2 rookies. We've got Gigi. We've got Vince. We got a lot of developmental guys. And I was very big on let's run it and see what we have this year, this summer. I've seen enough that tells me like we're a really good team. But the gap, I'll say we're a good team. But the gap to being a great team is wide, and unfortunately it's getting wider based on recent returns. Yes, we're coming off a 6-game win streak. Yes, we are 3rd in the West and 36-13 or whatever, but like what is it feels like it's just like a hollow shell, and that at any moment that thing's going to crack and come crumbling down. It looks great on paper, but like what are we doing to win right now? Because what we have between the offense and the core that we have, yes, we have a deep bench. Everybody wants to talk about that. But then our bench, like, just isn't enough to keep up with other teams. Yeah. I think a consolidation move for a vet or another bucket is an absolute must if we're going to start bridging that gap from good to great.
Yeah, if I put that back up for just a second, the guys that Wayno mentioned here, like I can understand the argument that you're trying to serve 2 masters. 1, you're trying to win now. 2, you're trying to develop for the future. I don't think these are the right examples to use when you're talking about win now versus the future, because the 2 rookies, Gigi and Vince, like, they're not going anywhere. They are now. I mean, yes, maybe they are not as good now as they will be for the future, but none of those players are on the market. Like they will not be moved in this consolidation trade that Rusty's talking about. The problem that I have, and you're talking about, like, if you want to make a move for right now, the move's not going to include any of these players. More likely not. It's going to include Brandon Clark, or it's going to include Kennard, Laravia, Conchar. That's the end of the bench, guys, is where the frustration comes in, because the 4 guys, the 2 rookies, Gigi and Vince, I don't care how big the rotation is, they're going to get it. They're going to get theirs. You know, they are going to be in the top 9, period. And so it's past that you try to consolidate and make a trade.
This is a great point, Dashville. Like, Vince Williams will be a key player. We are missing his toughness and his defense and his edge. Yes, he's a 2nd-year player, but he makes us instantly better on defense on a perimeter for sure.
My favorite thing and Nathan from Grizz 901, Nate he said this constantly, and I'm 100%, and it's the only reason why I would even entertain 2 weeks ago a Jimmy Butler trade, is that there's no crazy people. There's no one that says you're not going to walk on us no more. You're not going to. The guy, like, you shouldn't be relying on 7'4" rookie Zach Edey to be your enforcer.
Yes.
And so he uses that. He uses that as a way to prop up John Collins. That's who he wants. That's who
Astronomo wants here. Yeah, John Collins or bust. Absolutely.
You don't have enough crazy people, and that you need a little bit of streak of crazy. And I do not in the comments want to see anybody talking about Dylan Brooks' night last night, because we've seen that on this team. He is crazy, but he sunk us.
He had one great game last night. He sunk us. And this is a great point by
just
DG.
Wait till they put Amen Thompson in the starting lineup over him. He's going to sink the Rockets too.
100%. But this is a great point. Like, could there be like a mission or a vendetta here that we are an ulterior motive is what I'm trying to say, that we're unaware of. Maybe we're running out Jake and these guys so that we can beef them up for a Cam Johnson type trade or a John Collins trade. And I know you're going to give me beef in the comments for this, but Drew and I both are on this team. I watched this man play in person. John Collins and Colin Sexton would make this team instantly better with that, because if Sexton is tough, he's a dog, man. It's just so like, it's what we're missing. But Drew, do you think there's some credit to this, that we're running out guys in order to try and make them more appealing on the trade market?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that the front office makes decisions to keep people on the bench so that they're healthy for the trade deadline?
Probably.
Do you think that happens?
Yeah, probably.
Then this happens too.
That's probably a reason we haven't seen Vince. I was talking about this a little bit yesterday. Like, he's got a bad ankle sprain, but there's a reason that Vince is kind of like, he's been practicing, he's been playing. I almost
think they're trying to hide him, or do you think they're trying to keep him healthy in case they trade him?
I think they're trying to hide him so they doesn't get, like, he's not an offer, like an offer to be traded.
They have the power to say no. That's stupid.
I get it, but that's the thing. It's a thing to try and hide people, and all this to say, like, we have a recipe to win here, but we're going to have to take away some of Taylor Jenkins's toys, and maybe that's what they're doing. They're running these guys out there so they can get traded. I don't know, but like the future is Ja, Dez, Jaren, Edie, Jalen, Gigi, and Vince. Everything outside of that doesn't matter. Luke is playing really great. I would not say Prime that he's a must stay, no trade, because he's very inconsistent, right? He had 3 or 4 really great games, but until he does it against contenders, I'm not going to buy it. Just like with this Grizzlies team, like, I'm excited for the success that we've had against lesser teams, but until I see Luke do it against the best teams and us do it against the best teams, I'm going to have reservations.
The thing with Luke Kennard, and then I want to touch on Zach Edey for a minute. The thing with Luke Kennard is that he's going to excel in a game that the Grizzlies are playing well in, because he's not a half court. He doesn't take shots in the half court offense very well, and he makes a lot of his 3-point buckets are in transition. Mm-hmm. And so if the Grizzlies are bogged down, Luke Kennard is just not going to get enough shots. And if he's not making, I think he shot 5 yesterday and maybe went 1 for 5 or something like that. Like, he is a role player. He is a role player, just like Santi, just like BC, just like Jake LaRavia, just like everybody else that we didn't listen that first 8 or 9. They're role players, and you've got to consolidate those, because you can't depend on any of them from one night to the next.
Yeah, agreed. This is a great point. I'm saying if Vince comes back the day after a trade is made, I'm going to absolutely laugh. But Luke, Prime, like, I hear you. Luke may deserve a bigger contract, but it's not with the Memphis Grizzlies. Wayno puts it best, and then we'll talk about Zach Edey. Luke is a luxury to have, but we also don't need him to win. We have won a lot of games this year without Luke Kennard. We've got a small sample size of him being amazing, and it was an amazing sample size. But now we've back to what Luke used to be, shooting 4 or 5 threes and not playing as well as he was.
Yeah, I'm okay with Luke staying on the team, but he can fit in a trade. Like, I'm okay either way. I don't feel passionately one way or the other. He has got one of the best assets that you can have as a basketball player coming off the bench. He can shoot the dang ball. Here's what I want to talk about, Edey. And you've been on this, and so I'm not going to say I've come around as much as, because you've been very much like, you need to feature Edey more. And I disagreed with that, because if you're going to run this offense, Edey doesn't fit. And so I don't want to force feed Edey in an offense where he doesn't work with Ja. I'm now fully convinced at this point, after watching last night, although I've been leaning this way forever, that you need to go back to the screen and roll, the last year's offense. Mm-hmm. And so if they do that, then Edey becomes a lot more important in a role that fits him better. And that is the Steven Adams role. And so I hope what I hope is a bigger second half of the year from Edey, because they decided to go away from this offense. I still stand beside what I said, and I'm not going to give you credit for being right. I still stand by what I said, that if you're going to run this offense, Edey is not going to work. He's not going to work in a motion offense where everybody's running 2.5 miles more than the average NBA player. Like I will never concede that. Yeah. However, I am pro change it up now. And if you're going to run a more pick and roll style offense, I do believe that Zach Edey is going to be an absolute weapon if he can just figure out the art of setting screens. We've talked about the art of rebounding, the art of setting screens. Just sit him down on a TV and watch how Steven Adams would set the screen. And then he would go further down the lane and set a screen against the same player again as Ja just zigs and zags his way down the lane. That's what I want to see out of Edey is him be able to get better at that. And I do believe that if they do go away from this communist offense, that he will become more important in the starting lineup because he is just the biggest screener you've got.
Agreed. And I love to see, because what happened, lesser basketball teams, but when we featured Edey early against the Pelicans and the Jazz, we got a big lead. We pulled away, and Edey had big nights. I agree.
But the first part of the sentence is more relevant than the second part.
Again, lesser teams. I still stand by my summer draft analysis saying we should have took Khalil Ware. Guy's on an absolute tear. But I think that Zach Edey has potential to turn it around. But again, it's going to take a little bit of change in the offense. The last thing I want to talk about before we start wrapping up the show is turnovers. That's the one thing about this offense that makes me nervous, and I hate how many turnovers we have. It's a nightly thing, right? When we don't turn the ball over and the offense works, then we win. It's simple math. It makes sense, right? But he just needs to be more aggressive, like Shaq. Absolutely, just dunk on people and body them, man. That's what we need.
I was kidding.
But with turnovers. So last night we had 26 turnovers. It was awful. We just couldn't hang on to the basketball, and that's a common theme. People talk about we need, more Scotty minutes, or Dez doesn't need to play point guard because I believe somebody on this show was talking about him dribbling off his foot, all that kind of stuff. So currently,
he did it again last night.
Currently, when Memphis Grizzlies that are playing the point guard position with a minimum of 200 possessions, where we rank in the turnover percentile?
I know we're 29th in the NBA in turnover.
Yeah, So Desmond Bane is in the first percentile. Not great.
No.
Ja is in the 16th percentile. Scotty is in the 18th percentile. None of our point guards are really great. The two best on our team, Luke is in the 30th, and then Marcus Smart's in the 99th percentile. If we're going to hang on to Marcus Smart, he needs to be our backup point guard. That's the whole point of this. Is Marcus Smart has been our best point guard in this offense. This offense sucks. The way we turn the ball over, Desmond dribbling off his foot, Ja throwing it to go, Scottie Pippen Jr. not looking to pass the ball until he's already under the goal is mind-numbingly frustrating to me.
And every player on this team jumps before they realize they know what they're going to do with the ball. Every single
They're like Michael Scott. Sometimes I start a sentence and we're just going to see if I can find it along the way. That's how we attack the basketball. We don't know what we're going to do. We just hope we find it along the way.
Yeah, I attribute that a lot to this communist offense. So there was an offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. His name was Phil Longo, who thought he would change the whole game when it comes to passing routes. And what he said was we're not going to run routes. We're going to chase open space. That was his look for open grass. So when the ball was snapped, the quarterback and the receiver did not know what the other one was going to do. They were just going to run to the open gap like we're playing on the playground. That's what this feels like. It's these are bad passes because the player's not where they think they're going to be. Or when they make up their mind, then the player decides he's going to go somewhere else. And it makes you look stupid, but it's because the players don't know where the other player is going. Yeah. And that's why I wrote this down. This is the last thing I'll say. This offense, I've related it to communism because everybody gets better and nobody excels. Okay. I stand by that. It's also it's the air raid, and you can speak to this better than anybody, Rusty. Mike Leach was your football coach, and if you don't know Mike Leach, he is the pioneer of air raid offense. And air raid was so good because it spread you out, short routes. You didn't need elite receivers, but you won a lot of games. You were never going to be below 6 games, but you were never beating Alabama. Yeah. Never.
You're not wrong. And I can be objective about that. You're not wrong.
And so you've got to get to a serious brand of basketball, in my opinion. And I think that is the easiest change you can make because you've ran it in the past, and the new guys are just filling in roles anyways. Like put them in the corner. Put Jalen Wills in the corner. That's your role. Okay, on offense, you go to the corner, and then that immediately, I feel like, engages Ja, gives him help in getting to the rim because you've got Edie standing there, and it helps Desmond because he is catch and shoot threes.
Yeah,
Ja is driving with no help. And he's getting there's no obvious kick out. Like there's just no anything.
Yeah. I'm not sure we could wrap up this show any better than saying we are the most unserious basketball team right now. That was a great point. Like we have to get serious about getting serious on offense, getting serious about protecting the basketball and giving energy. And it's sad that we're talking about professional athletes that are having to be motivated to go play basketball. But that's where we're at. This team needs a jolt. And listen, winning cures all. You beat Houston at home on TNT on Thursday night. It's a whole different ball game going forward. But based on that product we saw last night at Madison Square Garden, I'm not super confident about it. We'll talk more about that on Thursday. Yeah. Listen, guys, thank y'all for being here. The comments were popping off today.
Let me put a bow on it too, because I am very much not out on this Memphis Grizzlies team. I am absolutely in with this lineup. I do believe that with tweaks, you are a contender. Yes, you need to consolidate, make a trade, but you are still in this Western Conference. You are still the 3 seed. There are things to fight for. There are things to play hard for, and there's reason to be motivated. Yeah. And just
Shout
like
out Prime for the positivity here.
Yeah. Just me and Rusty yelled at each other a month or so ago on this show after a Lakers loss in which he was convinced was 100% Taylor Jenkins' fault, and I was convinced that the players sucked. You know what happened the next game? You beat the Warriors by 50. So things change, and we are recapping after one disastrous game, but the full picture is still able to be seen by me at least. Like this is not over, but they do need to change the offense.
Agreed. We're a good, like I said earlier, I said it on this show today.
We're a homer podcast. We're not haters.
No, we're a good team, but we're not great. And it's a wide gap to great. I need to see steps to make it happen.
I want great. Good is not good enough anymore.
Not anymore. I want greatness from Taylor Jenkins, and I want greatness from our big 3. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. But that's going to do it for us today. If you were here, remember, be a friend to somebody who needs a friend. Hang out with folks. Check in on your people. It's a hard world out there. We see it all the time. But what you heard
today. Go eat at your Mexican restaurants.
That's it. And what you heard today, there are no refunds.
That's right. Because with the $2 Sports Show, you always get what you pay for. Go Grizz. See you on Thursday.
See y'all Thursday. Let's go Grizz. Get away.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.